Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another Halloween horror movie review. Today we're going to be talking about one that's kind of special to me personally, namely 1975's The Giant Spider Invasion. Yeah. Alright, let's check it out today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. So, the Giant Spider Invasion. Now, one of the reasons this is really special to me personally is it's one of the earliest memories I have of going to see a movie at the theater. I think the first movie I ever saw in the theater was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the Disney one. But I remember this one in particular because I know that I was probably a little too young for it at the time. I went with some cousins and stuff like that. I don't remember specifically who I went with. The thing was, a lot of the imagery from this movie basically got just burned into my impressionable young mind. I'm pretty sure I couldn't have been much older than about 5 or 6 when I originally saw it, so it was likely a re-release of some kind. I know that this one very quickly became something of a cult favorite, so it wouldn't have been unusual for it to occasionally come back in the cheaper theaters and whatnot, so I suspect that's likely where I saw it. So the Giant Spider Invasion is essentially your fairly straightforward B-movie fare. There's some strange cosmic event. At first it seems like something has crashed from space into the earth near a little farmhouse. But what's actually happened is it's not like a spaceship full of spiders or something. No, there was some kind of cosmic event that actually opens a rift between dimensions. So I guess it opened a rift to the spider dimension or something. And there's all these spiders start coming out of this rift. So the rift is fairly close to a farmhouse, and the husband and wife that live in that farmhouse go to investigate because, just strange things going on. And as they're heading towards where they think the crash was, they're seeing dead animals and mutilated carcasses and so forth as they get closer and closer. And when they finally get there, they just see a crater with these mysterious little rocks, like almost perfectly spherical rocks, all scattered around. So they think, oh, maybe they're valuable space rocks or whatever, so they take some back with them and they're trying to crack them open. So they manage to get one open, or rather, it opens itself and a spider crawls out and scuttles away. So they just see the opened rock on the ground and it's full of diamonds. And they're thinking, oh, wow, we're going to be rich. They're full of diamonds. We're going to go get more of these. So, of course, they have no idea that these are actually interdimensional spider eggs. So needless to say, things go horribly wrong as they bring more and more of these things back and they start to hatch and more spiders come out. But these aren't just regular spiders coming out of these eggs. No, at first they start off like regular spiders, but as the movie progresses, some of them start to get bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually we have the giant spider of the title roaming around the countryside. And I'm going to give mad props to Bill Rebane, the director of this, and the producers, for actually going out of their way to build a full-size giant spider. Now, of course, it looks cheesy as hell. This is a very low-budget movie, but I gotta give credit where credit's due. They really just went all out to do this all for real, in camera, with full-size monsters and whatnot, and it makes it a lot of fun. I mean, obviously, it's very cheesy, but it makes it a lot of fun to see these full-scale giant spiders and the actors fighting them and stuff like that. It's a blast. So the main giant spider they apparently made out of the carcass of an old VW. Now, I don't know if it was a VW Beetle or like a van, but whatever it was, they used the frame of it and then had a local welding company actually build the shell of the spider, and then they put like fake fur and everything on top of it. And then they needed to find a way to make the legs move, because they had, rods and stuff to make the legs move. But it was so cramped inside, the only thing they could do was pile in a bunch of kids. So they had like 9 kids crammed into this giant spider to move the legs, and then another one to drive it around. Hey, I really admire the ambition here. Then they had a second spider, which is what they called the eating spider, which was basically the one that would visibly eat people. So that one was, I think it was just a half, like it was the front portion of the spider, and they'd kind of hoist it up on a crane, and then there'd be people inside that would pull the victims into the mouth of the big spider. And then I forget if it was a third one or if it was one of those two. I think it was the eating spider, actually. There's a scene where it attacks the farmhouse, and it's actually up on the roof. I think that's the eating spider that's up there. But, yeah, so it's an invasion of 2 giant spiders, which actually are technically the same giant spider. But there's a great scene where it makes its way to town, and it's chasing the townspeople through the streets, and there's cars and chaos and people running, freaking out. Meanwhile, the spider's like tromping along behind them, and it's just a blast. Now, as a kid, I gotta say this movie scared the hell out of me because, of course, I had seen, I think, some of the Godzilla movies by this point, so I definitely liked the whole idea of giant monsters, but this was something a little more, I guess, visceral to me because it was a spider. It wasn't just some fantastical creature. It was a giant version of something recognizable, and I'd never seen anything like that before, so it was very scary to me as a 5 or 6 year old. The other thing that had a big impact on me was the fact that the town's sheriff is played by none other than Alan Hale, the skipper from Gilligan's Island. Yeah, so I had seen a lot of Gilligan's Island as a kid, so I immediately recognized him as the skipper. In fact, there's a little nod that I even picked up on as a 5-year-old. In the very first scene that he appears in, his deputy comes in to tell him about some things that are going on in town, and he greets him as, "Hey, little buddy." And seeing that again now, I couldn't help but smile. It's like, what a cute little reference to Gilligan's Island they just kind of tossed in there. So when I picked up this Blu-ray, it had literally been about 40 years since I had last seen the movie. I can't remember if I saw it again later when I was a little older or not. The only time I really remember seeing it was that first time in the theater when I went with my cousins. And just the fact that it scared the hell out of me. And it kind of, I was amazed actually when I watched it by just how much I remembered, like in terms of the visuals and sort of the little iconic moments throughout. Yeah, it definitely imprinted itself on my brain. There was one big thing, however, that I found out now, 40 years later, that I misremembered from my entire life. Now this is a bit of a spoiler for the movie. Involves a major character death in the story. Okay, you're still here? Alright. Now, I had remembered a scene towards the end of the movie where the sheriff was fighting the giant spider. Where the giant spider was like swatting away at him and he's shooting at it. And finally what ends up happening is the spider grabs him and pulls him up and is eating him, and as he's eating him, there's like blood pouring down his back. And that traumatized me as a kid, because it was the skipper. I just saw the skipper get eaten brutally by a giant spider. So I was both anticipating and dreading that moment in the movie, because I mean, Alan Hale as the sheriff is just such a nice, likable character in the movie. I mean, to be honest, he has some of the best scenes, and quite frankly, I think he's the best actor out of everybody in there. But, so it gets to that scene, and it's not the skipper fighting the giant spider, it's his deputy. Like, his right-hand man. Just some other guy, I don't even remember his name. So it's some other guy who had a very similar uniform to the skipper. So I guess as a kid, because it was lit kind of dark, I mistook him for the skipper because he had the same uniform. But it's not. It's a different character. It's like a secondary character. And other than that, I remembered the death scene completely exactly as it happened. Like, sure enough, he's fighting and he gets pulled up and he's eaten and there's blood pouring down his back. I remembered all of that quite vividly. But it wasn't the skipper. The skipper lives! Hallelujah! The skipper lives! I gotta tell you, like, it really shows how fallible memory can be. That is a memory that I carried with me my entire freaking life. And this whole time, it was wrong. But I mean, I think it can be attributed to the misperception of a child. I mean, it would be quite easy to make that mistake because, as I said, they were wearing the same uniform. This was a secondary character that we hadn't really seen very much in the movie other than in a couple of key scenes. And I thought it was the skipper. And a lot of the fight scene is in kind of darkened lighting, so it's hard to see exactly who it is. So I don't know if I looked away for a moment and didn't quite catch his face, and only seeing him from behind, it'd be quite easy to make that mistake. So anyway, I misremembered that my entire life. So when it finally got up to that scene, and I saw it wasn't the skipper, it was somebody else, I was like, huh. Well, what do you know? I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Pictures don't lie, right? So, yeah. Anyway, it was an absolute blast to see this again after so long. I mean, now I enjoy it in a whole different way. I respect it as an independent film, and the fact that it was a very low-budget film, but also incredibly ambitious just for the scale of the creatures that they created for it. It's really quite impressive how much they were able to do with so little, and how creatively they met those challenges. Is it high art? No. But is it fun? Absolutely yes. I absolutely recommend this movie if you like giant monster movies, giant bug movies, giant spider movies, whatever. This is definitely a notable one to check out, and very rightly a huge cult classic. This Blu-ray edition, by the way, from VCI Entertainment is fantastic. I mean, the transfer quality itself looks a little bit soft, but I think that's really due to the source material. I mean, it was done on pretty low-grade film stock, and I really don't see it looking any better than it does. So this is quite a nice edition. It's loaded with extras. I think I gave you a close-up look at that in my recent Blu-ray update. But it comes with, this was kind of, I think it was like a giveaway promo. It comes with like a little comic book that kind of gives you a summarization of the story up to the point where the giant spider goes into town. You've got a bonus DVD that is nothing but extras. There's about 3 or 4 hours of stuff on there. A lot of archival material, a lot of stuff from Bill Rebane's own personal home movie library. There's basically a whole big long section where a huge fan of the movie comes to see him, and they go to see the remains of the actual giant spider in his backyard. It's all grown in with bushes and trees and stuff, but they actually get to see what's left of it. It's basically just a frame by this point. It's all rotted away and rusty. But then he takes him into his home and goes through his personal archives. He gets to see a lot of the promotional material and stuff, some of which was used, some of which wasn't, and a lot of the production material and stuff like that. And it's great. It's wonderful. You've also got the Super 8 condensed version on here, which is basically the original home video format. You would get these condensed versions of films on Super 8 film or 8mm film, watch them on your home movie projector. And it typically would take a 90-minute, 2-hour movie and condense it down to about 20, 30 minutes. This particular one condenses it down to about 17 and a half minutes. So you've got a straight rip of the Super 8 version on the bonus disc, and then you got a high-def reconstructed version from the high-def film print on the Blu-ray, which is pretty cool. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff on here, and you get a bonus CD of tracks from the Giant Spider Invasion, the musical. Yeah, you've hit legendary cult status when you get a musical version. So this is a great edition. It's really, really good stuff. Needless to say, I'll put an Amazon link in the description if you'd like to add this to your collection. I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. And you can see the movie that scared the crap out of young Z. So it's great to finally have this movie in the collection. It's kind of been a bit of an enigma for me for a long time. Just kind of having these vague memories from when I was a kid. When I found out there was a Blu-ray of it, I don't know, I was just thinking about the movie recently I don't even remember why. It just came up in conversation or something. I was like, I gotta see if there's a Blu-ray of that, and sure enough there is, and a beautiful deluxe edition too, so I couldn't be happier. Alrighty, that is it from me to you for now. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Big thanks to my Patreon sponsors. Be sure to catch me on Twitch. I stream just about every day, and I'll see you next time. Until then, sayonara.